All right, guys. Well, welcome back to another song title challenge. This is a little pull-out piece that we're doing. We try to keep it 5 to 10 minutes long at the most, where I take suggestions from you, and you can send your suggestions into info@daredevilproduction.com. Once again, production is singular. There is no S, with a song title, and I'm going to spring them on Brent live, and then he starts to go through the mind of a lyricist and a hit songwriter, and how he's going to break it down and the way that he's going to approach putting together lyrics for that song. This is not a co-write in any way, so any ideas that you get, if it's your song that we're talking about, you're free to use. And you won't hear from us. You just got to invite us to the number one party, right? Did I cover it all?
I think that's it. Yep. Have cake. So, you can have cake for us if it's your number one party. I like cake.
Yeah, he likes cake. I like cake too. Cake is good.
But yeah, that's the deal here. So yeah, so y'all have sent this into what? info@daredevilproduction.com?
Correct.
All right, so send that in if you want to be a part of this. Have your idea kind of fleshed out a little bit more here. And yeah, I'm just going to riff on it. It's a cold thing. Like we're sitting in a co-write and you go, hey, I got this idea. What do you think? And go, ooh, let's ponder that. And also because I'm a country hammer, I'm going to treat this like a country nail and try to figure out how we would write it as hit suspiciously as possible, right? Try to build a hit out of this thing, a country hit, because that's what I know and that's what I can go into in my thought processes. So hopefully you'll learn something, hopefully be a little entertaining too. And I'm putting it off because these always scare me. Let me just talk some more.
One more thing. If you're not in country, if you're an indie artist or rock artist or R&B, whatever, like the same concepts though are interesting, because I think just the way that you dissect the approach is the valuable tool here. So here we go.
All right.
Growing Wild.
Growing Wild. Ooh,
Growing Wild.
Okay, who sent this one in?
This is from Trepo.
Trepo. All right. That's a good one. It's not nearly as weird as I thought it'd be. Shane, thank you. Growing Wild. All right. So what am I thinking growing wild? First thing I think of is weeds. I think of flowers growing wild. I think of, marijuana growing wild. I think of, stuff in nature growing wild. Also think of, people hidden adolescence, young guys and girls growing up, growing wild. Also think about that. You're right. So the first thing I'm thinking of is like a kind of a coming of age, strawberry wine kind of thing, but maybe with a little more punch as far as wine and punch, spiked punch, but a little more like energy, right? So maybe like a Jason Aldean kind of thing. But it's young kids growing wild. They're out in the country because, hey, we use country music and we like stuff out where stuff grows. And so, they're out in the field or whatever, out in the country where stuff is growing wild, and they're also growing wild, kind of exploring first love and their first feelings, right? So you could do that.
And alcohol.
Marijuana, pot. I mean, you definitely go there. Like, is that growing wild or whatever? Depending on the kind of the brand, where you want to stake that claim, because that's still a subset, and not a lot of country artists will touch that, but some will. Would make it harder at radio to touch on the marijuana thing. Not that it can't be done. I look at it like a bullseye, right? So the big, you want to aim for a big bullseye, which just means a lot of artists can cut it and release it to radio. So it doesn't have what might be a cut killer or a single killer. And if you did talk about pot or something like that, that could be more of a cut killer or more of a singles killer for certain artists. Not for every one of them, for sure, but it's something you have to think about. Myself doing it, I probably wouldn't go there just based on personal preferences and kind of stuff I want to write. Your mileage may vary on that. So that's the first thing I think of. And I think that's the more country 101 kind of way writing it, going, okay, we're going to have some tempo. This girl, she's growing up, she's growing wild. He's coming to pick her up out where stuff grows wild and, going out and picking wildflowers, right? That kind of thing. Maybe he is picking her wildflowers without using that title from that Keith Anderson song from years ago. But, that kind of thought of picking wildflowers, and they're growing wild and they're growing wild and all this stuff. It could be a fun kind of good energy, tempo, love song. Definitely fit within the country format easily. Oh, okay, we got that. Kind of feel like we have that in our back pocket.
Yep. That's the first hit. Right
all
there.
Right.
First swing. Yeah.
Now we're playing with house money.
Yep.
All right, what else is there? All right, we got that. That's how most, I think, Nashville writers would write that. or that's going to be their first impression.
Ooh, I got some idea.
What else we got? Okay, Johnny, what do you got?
I got one idea. Like, so you know what? It has the word wild in it already, but I think of like a buddy song, right? It could be a girl buddy song or a guy buddy song, but like your crew, right? Your squad, like these are your guys, the boys you grew up with in your hometown.
Yeah.
Kind of like Bon Jovi's Wild in the Streets, you know, where it's sort of like an anthem for the youth kind of a thing, but you put it into country and growing wild out here on the farm, you know, kind of a thing. But it's about your squad, about your team, you know?
Yeah, I like that. I think that would be more of a,
definitely upbeat song.
It's to be upbeat. It would be, there are not as many of those, you know, just my crew kind of songs. We're out here growing wild, which I think would bring some value to it. Because part of what you're trying to answer is the why me, why this song? So what? Yeah. How many bazillion songs are there about young love out in the country, guy and girl getting together? Okay. Cool. I mean, you give it a theme. You're talking about the honeysuckle growing wild. And so you give it a distinct flavor, but still there are a bunch of those in that general neighborhood. That would be one way to differentiate. Your idea would be like, no, it's about my crew. We're growing wild, you know, or it's growing up. We were growing wild. You know, everybody else was growing up. We were growing wild or something, you know.
There you go. Yeah.
You got that.
Oh, there you go. There's a movie line right there.
Which is fun little pre-hook. Yeah. You know, they're busy growing up. We're all growing wild. You know, that could be more college. You know, I feel like that. People going to school, getting their first jobs, they're growing up. We're still growing wild. Which would be fun party anthem. Okay, so what else have we got? Is there a way to, I don't know, Lori McKenna this thing? You know, she wrote Humble and Kind. Yes. She wrote this other stuff. Okay.
So good.
And that's a fun thing to do sometimes as a thought exercise. Go, you know, these writers that you respect that have a flavor. Go, how would Laura McKenna write this? How would Shane McAnally write this? How would Bob McDill write this? What kind of song on this would George Strait sing? Is a fun way to kind of reshape your filtering. So growing wild, I mean, that could be even more of an introspective, positive song. I'm kind of picturing, okay, you are talking about the flowers, like, you know, you're maybe you're on a city street, everything's gray and concrete. And then you see this beautiful little wildflower sticking up from the sidewalk cracks, you know, and it's growing wild. This unexpected beauty in a moment that's just growing wild. It wasn't cultivated. It wasn't planned. It wasn't set there specifically. It's out of context. It's growing, and that's part of what makes it so beautiful. Is this boom, this unexpected moment of beauty. And so what if you kind of relate that to moments of kindness, of love, of self-sacrifice for your fellow man, and it becomes more of a Humble and Kind, right? It becomes more of a bigger thing of, man, it's even more beautiful when it's growing wild. Like, you know, when you see just it's the person, you catch somebody doing something really kind for someone else, not for the glory, not for the spotlight.
Like Bobby Bones' Pimpin' Joy kind of a thing, which caught on fire, right? Like,
and that could be something, growing wild, or which I think would be an interesting take. Now, is that going to be your big Jason Aldean thing? No, but it may be more of a Humble and Kind thing, just different angle. You know, it could also just be, let's see. I mean, you could talk more about just like love growing wild, much more the Strawberry Wine kind of angle, where it's not the Aldean boy and girl in a field or the my crew and a thing, but it's like our love, you know, their love is growing wild, or our love is growing wild. It's kind of like it's gotten out of the fence row. And now it's just, you know, it's almost like a wildfire kind of thing. It's growing wild. It's on its own, man. We can't stop this love that we have. It's growing wild kind of thing would be cool. Very organic, natural. We didn't plan this. Look at this beauty that we stumbled upon, this love. It's out here growing wild. So it's like a similar thing, but a different flavor, different tone to it. Let's see if maybe one more. Growing wild. Okay, so looking at the words, like we did the growing up versus growing wild. So trying to play off the words. You know, if there's an opposite of growing wild, it's opposite of growth is stagnation, is, you know, shrinkage. You know, so nothing there that's really tripping my trigger there. But I think we're coming up on 10 minutes, so we want to keep these short. But so that's just my There we go. That's what I think. I think there are a couple there that are interesting.
One last curveball real quick.
Yes.
WILE was an acronym.
Oh, that the challenge on that is making it clear that you're spelling something out with that. I mean, I like acronyms.
Mr. Klein, Mr. Fancy Pants Klein.
But that's, but yeah, I'm thinking of holy, that
there you go. Yeah.
Sword of George line, holy, holy, high on loving you. But I wonder how many people even got that's without seeing the title going H period, O period, L period, Y period, then in parentheses, high on loving you or whatever. Like, oh, okay. They kind of spelled it out a little bit. The thing is, you didn't need that to get the song. You didn't need to get that it's an acronym. Like if you get it, it's like bonus. And it's an extra scene at the end of a movie that flips everything on its head or whatever.
It's an Easter egg within the lyric, right?
It is. So, because it's such a visual kind of thing, and you could get worried about getting so technical, making sure they understand that this is spelling it out, that you could take the heart out of it, the emotion out of it, because you're just trying to get this technical thing done. So if you do that, that's cool, but I would aim for like holy, where it's an Easter egg. It's bonus. You don't have to get it to get it.
Right.
So that'd be my thoughts on that.
Okay. Well, cool. That's there you go. That's the latest installment of Song Title Challenge. Send in your ideas, whatever song titles you have. If you'd like us to kind of run through something and break it down. Again, it's not a co-write. This is all just free sort of bonus material from
Shane. That's all your stuff right there, buddy. Feel free to use it. Hey, but also if you're out there, you're listening, like, I have some ideas that I want someone to bounce some ideas off of and get input like this, but I don't want it out there for everybody, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's going to be millions of people hearing this. Not yet. But anyway, but you don't want it all out there. I also do one-on-one consulting. I do coaching. And a lot of it's like this, somebody say, hey, I got this idea, and we'll bounce back and forth and try to dig into it and find what's really the coolest, best use of this idea to really focus it, frame it, dig into it. That's part of what I do in my one-on-one coaching. I also do a bunch of other stuff. I mean, I answer questions. If you got something a question that's burning a hole in your brain, ask me. That's the time to do that. It's, it's confidential. It's one-on-one. It's video conference. So if you have the ability to hear this podcast, you have the ability to meet with me online or over the phone for those. And if you want to book a session or find out more, you just go to songwritingpro.com/coaching. songwritingpro.com/coaching gives you my availability, my calendar. If you see something you like, you just book it right there, and it lets me know that we're going to be hanging out.
There you go. All right, guys. Have a great rest of your week.